Hey guys, Norimaki here, and it is time to get in the kitchen and do some cooking. So, here's what went down. Maybe about a month ago, a while back, I was fortunate enough to be able to order a copy of the Legends Cookbook. So, if you guys don't know what the Legends Cookbook is, I'll put their social media information in the description and right down here too. The Legends Cookbook is a cookbook full of all of the different recipes from the Legend of Zelda series. Now, most of the recipes are from Breath of the Wild because if you don't know, in Breath of the Wild you can cook so much food. All kinds of recipes depending on what ingredients you pull out of the wilderness or buy out of shops or whatever have you. So it's got everything from the simple things like hot buttered apple all the way up to monster cake. And it even has other recipes inspired by other games. So Majora's Mask, you can actually make an alcoholic beverage called Chateau Romani. Amazing stuff. So this book came in earlier this week and I was just so excited and I figured, dude, why not get back into cooking? So the first recipe that one of my friends actually got to pick the first recipe I cooked, and that recipe is Tres Crepes. Tres Crepes isn't a recipe itself in Breath of the Wild. It is a combination of 3 recipes from Breath of the Wild. Those recipes are wildberry crepe, plain crepe, and honeyed crepe. I'm gonna teach you guys how to make Tres Crepes. 3 different recipes from Breath of the Wild in one video. So let's learn how to cook. Oh, I love this book so much. So here are your ingredients first and foremost. Your ingredients are the following: 2 tablespoons of melted butter, 1.5 cups of milk, 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 3 large eggs, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. That's just to make the crepe itself. So whatever toppings you guys want to put on this, crepes are so universal, you can put whatever you want in it. For the wild berry crepe, it's whipped cream and raspberries. I substituted out strawberries for 2 reasons. 1, strawberries are also wild somewhere, and 2, I forgot to buy raspberries. So without further ado, here's how we cook this. In a medium bowl, beat the melted butter, the milk, the eggs, the salt, flour, and the vanilla until smooth. And when I say smooth, I mean it's gonna take you a minute. It says in here, it doesn't really give you a time, but it really took me about 5 minutes beating on medium to low speed. You don't want any lumps in it. You have lumps in it, you're gonna have lumps in your crepes, and that's like the last thing you want. You want to smooth things, so make sure all the lumps are out. Really get in there with the spatula and just make sure everything is nice and mixed together. After that, you are going to cover your bowl full of freshly made crepe batter and refrigerate it for about 2 hours just to make sure all the bubbles get out of there. So it says 2 hours. I actually did about 1.5 hours and I was pretty much good to go by that point. So really give it about 1.5 hours and start to check on it. If you're really in a rush for the crepes, just as much time as it needs to settle. But 1.5 hours, 2 hours is probably going to be your sweet spot to get all those bubbles out. 2 hours has passed, we have come back. Here's what you're gonna do to cook ourselves some good old-fashioned crepes. Brush the bottom of a non-stick pan with butter over medium heat. I actually just melted some more butter into a cup. I really just microwave my butter. No reason we gotta be fancy with this. And then I took a rubber brush that we have for cooking, poured a little bit onto my skillet, and then just brushed it around to make sure it evenly coated the pan. Nothing really complicated. Pour 1/4 cup of batter into the pan, and if needed, spread with a metal spatula. I'm not using a metal spatula because I have Teflon coated pans for non-stickness, and metal will scratch the Teflon clean off. I did, however, use a small, there's a name for that thing. We call it the Omni tool because you can use it for so much. It's a metal bread cutting thing. I use that to kind of spread the batter around, but my crepes were not actually all that circular. They were pretty blobbish, but blobbish does not mean inedible. Nope. Cook until the top sets and the other side is just slightly browned, which is about 2 minutes. The 2 minutes is pretty much what I did. Honestly, if you've cooked pancakes, this isn't too much different from that. I just cooked it till it started to look a little bit solid, and I just felt it in my bones and I needed to flip it. There it is. Even if when you flip it over, if it's darker brown than you think is fine, if you think it's burnt, it's probably not burnt. Honestly, some of mine were darker brown and they still tasted amazing. So don't freak out if they're darker than you think they should be because you don't work in a professional creperie. Is that a word? Creperie?
Yes, sir.
Crepe shop? whatever. Okay, so after those 2 minutes are up, cook the other side for just 30 seconds. It's been cooking a little bit under there anyway. It really does only take about 30 seconds. And then you want to just take your spatula and just wiggle it around the edges and then scoop it and slap it onto your plate and make however many you want. They stay warm for quite a bit of time, to be honest, even though they're so thin. After that, top your crepes with fresh whipped cream and raspberries for that wild berry crepe. Drizzle some honey on it for the honeyed crepe, and it helps if you leave some butter out ahead of time, I'm figuring out, because you want the butter to melt evenly across the crepe. Do not be like me and pull cold butter out of the refrigerator and put 2 pats or more into the crepe. You're just gonna have giant pats of butter you have to bite through, and no amount of sugar is gonna cut how bad you're gonna feel when you bite into butter. I added the brown sugar, like I said. Brown sugar and butter on a crepe is just, well, that's really it. That is our Trace crepes. I think they're delicious. I had to split them with my dad. They were fairly big, the ones that I made. Don't be afraid to make them a little smaller than I did. I just had a large skillet and I like to fill large skillets. So that is it for cooking Trace crepes. I hope you enjoyed cooking with me today. If you learned something, I hope you go and try this recipe, and if you do, let me know down in the comments how it turned out. I would love to hear that you guys are cooking these recipes. If you're new here and you enjoyed yourself, don't be afraid to hit the subscribe button. Join the Penguin Village. We play video games, we talk about soundtracks, and now we cooking. Get in on the fun. And until next time, you guys. Peace.